Good afternoon, folks. And it is afternoon. Here we are in our new location at 88 Boyd Avenue in East Providence. And I got an old friend with me, and I messed him up because I didn't tell him that we had already moved to Boyd Avenue and didn't realize that the last time he was on the show was over 2 years ago. And that's my good friend, Joe Fleming, of Fleming and Associates. How you doing, Joe?
Good, Bob. How are you?
Good, good. This is going to be a banner year, I think, for politics, both statewide and nationally.
Yeah, it could be. Could be a very interesting year in Rhode Island. There's a lot of potentially very strong races coming up. We have to wait and see. It's been very quiet so far in the political arena. We have candidates announced and raising money, but there has not been a lot of outreach to the voters up to this point.
Right, right. And then you get now you had one Republican candidate for governor, but now I think you have a second?
I heard there's a second person who said they're going to run. Again, it's a matter, a lot of people say they're going to run. We got to see what happens in late June when you file and you have to get all the signatures. Some people say they're running, and we've already seen a few people who realized they wanted to run, but they couldn't raise the money, and so they dropped out of the race.
Or they know they did a little polling and they found out that it ain't going to work for them.
Well, I think a lot of them right now, the ones who have dropped out, realize the money is the big factor. If you can't raise the money, it's very hard to get your message out to the voters. So I think like we saw in the Congressional District 2, the Republican Senator De La Cruz, she dropped out. And she said it was money. On the Democratic side, former Rep. Ed Pacheco, he's dropped out, and he said it was the raising the money. And it's very hard to raise money sometimes, especially if you're just trying to get it all locally. And we already have one candidate running for Congress who's over $1 million. So
what do you mean, spent over $1 million or got
No, has raised over $1 million so
far. And that's in what?
CD2, Seth Magazine, I think is at $1.4 million. So if you're running in that race, you know what you have to raise an awful lot of money to compete there to get yourself known.
Now, is that all money he raised, or did he loan himself money?
I'm not sure if any of it's a loan. My understanding, he raised a great deal of it. So he's over the 1.4 million, so he has plenty of money to run. But again, he has a primary and has a general election, and it's like a 7-person primary. So I mean, he has to spend money to get himself established in that race.
Right. Now, when you mentioned about raising money or getting money, a lot of the money comes from out of state.
A lot of the candidates do raise the money from out of state because you can't raise super big dollars in Rhode Island. You can raise a lot of money, but you need to get a source of income from other places. And a lot of times it's out of state, special interest groups, unions who will contribute, different PACs will contribute to your campaigns. And you'll see some candidates who raise most of the money in Rhode Island, some candidates who raise a lot of the money out of state.
Which is what Raimondo used to do. Used to get a lot of money from California, right?
Yeah, she raised money from everywhere. Remember now, when she ran 4 years ago now, she raised like $7 million for that campaign, and a lot of it came from out of state, and a lot came from in-state. But again, campaigning is getting very, very expensive. It's not a cheap thing to do. You mentioned polling. Polling's very expensive. A poll can cost you $25,000, $30,000 depending on what type of poll you're running.
Really?
You know, a short little 5-minute poll will probably run you $12,000, $13,000 because polling is expensive. Getting the people on the phones is more and more difficult nowadays. That's why you see posters going to cell phones more and more than landlines because you can't get the people on the landlines.
But how do you get a hold of the person on their cell phone?
You get the numbers.
Now, how do you get, being a pollster?
You buy them through the interviewing company who they'll draw the sample the way you want it, and they have resources to get the phone numbers.
Wow.
You know, from voter files and things like that, which are public records.
Now, when you run a poll for a candidate, say for the 2nd Congressional District, which encompasses about half of the state.
It does.
It's chopped up in the weirdest way.
It's the western half of the state, pretty much.
So when you do a poll for them, how many people do you poll?
Well, it varies. More than likely, somewhere between 400 and 500. Sometimes you do 600. It's a random sample based on different areas of the state on what to contribute to the overall survey in the actual voting. I mean, Providence, Cranston, Warwick, those are your 3 big cities in the 2nd Congressional District. You don't poll the same number of people from those communities as you do Exeter or Forster, because those are a lot smaller communities. So you have to have the company draw you the correct sample.
And not the correct sample also means Democrats too, right?
Democrats, Republicans, Independents. You want to have the correct mixture. Where the 1st Congressional District has a higher percent of registered Democrats than the 2nd Congressional District. So you want to balance it all out depending on where you're doing the calls from or whether you're doing a statewide survey.
Now, there's 2nd District doesn't have any of Providence, or it does have
they
a
do
little,
have part of
little bit of Providence?
They have parts of Providence, yes.
And what part of Providence do they have?
I'm pretty sure it's the area that borders Cranston. I don't know the exact boundaries.
What, Edgewood or Elmwood?
Bob, I'm really not sure.
Yep.
I know it's the areas that border Cranston. Cranston's the biggest area of the 2nd Congressional District. And then you have Warwick and you have Providence. Those are your 3 big areas. You also have Johnston in there. So then you get moved
Is
down
it
to
all
South
of,
County.
only part of Johnston, right?
It's all of Johnston.
Oh, it is all of
It's
Johnston.
all Johnston, the 2nd Congressional District.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. And what's also interesting, all of Cranston is in the 2nd
Yes.
Congressional District?
Right.
Well, that would help a guy like Fung, right?
That should be an advantage for Alan Fung, former mayor of 8 years there, very popular in Cranston. He also ran statewide twice.
Right.
So he's better known statewide than the other candidates at this point.
Right.
On the Democratic side, Seth Magaziner, he's run twice also, so he's known.
And he's run statewide
Right.
twice, yeah.
And the thing is, the other candidates have to build up their name recognition over the next month or two, so they can, be known to the voters, and so the voters can learn something about them to see if they want to vote for them.
All right, so you got that campaign.
Right.
You got the campaign for, who's running for treasurer? There's only one
Right
candidate?
now, James Diossa is
He's the only one, right?
On the Democratic side. There's rumors that Stephen Pryor, the Commerce Secretary, may be running, but it's been fairly quiet so far.
Yeah.
That's like Secretary of State Greg Amore, the state representative from East Providence. He's announced. No other Democrats have
If
announced.
I was younger, I would announce for that position. I'm serious. I've always had this thing about the Secretary of State. That's a very important office.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet in that sense so far. But it looks like the governor's race in the primary and the general election is going to be a race. Lieutenant governor, there's a three-way Democratic primary right now. But again, in the 2nd Congressional District, those are the 3 big ones right now. But the thing is, none of the candidates have really gone on and done any heavy advertising on TV on the Democratic side.
No, I haven't heard of anything.
And they haven't really started their campaign as far as voter contact, large voter contact. So I think right now a lot of the voters really aren't sure who they're going to vote for because the campaigns haven't really got moving so far. I expect very shortly they will.
Well, they should be. Here we are almost in the middle of May.
Right.
We're just about the middle of May.
Exactly. But again, if you don't have a ton of money, you want to shorten the period.
Right.
But if you have a lot of money, you can expand the period and force the candidates to spend their money early. So I think pretty soon we're going to see candidates on the air trying to get their message out to the voters.
All right, let's get to the governor's race.
Yep. Again, there's not been a lot of action there. We have 5 people running for governor at this point.
On the Democratic side.
Democratic side. We have Dan McKee, who's the incumbent.
Right.
We have Nellie Gorbea, who's the Secretary of State. Both of them have run statewide twice, so they're probably the best 2 names out there.
Right.
You have Helena Folks, the former CVS executive, who's raised over $1 million already.
Right.
So she's going to have the money to compete. And you also have Matt Brown, who was a former Secretary of State,
right,
who's running the Democratic primary 4 years ago for governor, who is a name that's fairly known, especially by the progressives in the state of Rhode Island.
Right.
So that could help him in a multi-candidate primary, if you can grab that progressive vote. And you have Dr. Munez, who's also running, who ran last time also.
No, is he from Providence?
I don't know. Originally, he was from Central Falls. I'm not sure.
Oh,
I think he might be Providence now.
Yeah.
But the candidates really haven't gone on TV to really define themselves.
Yeah, we don't know anything about most of these candidates.
That's the problem. I think the voters, that's why I'm saying a lot of the voters are probably undecided at this point because they don't know anything about the candidates. They probably know something about Governor McKee. They probably know something about Secretary of State Gorbea. But the others, Helena Folks, they may know her, she's a CVS executive, but they may not know what she stands for yet.
Right.
So I think when they start campaigning as far as TV, direct mail, the voters will get a clear idea, and then people's opinions will probably zero in on who they want to support.
Especially, are you looking forward to, or not looking forward to, but you're expecting to see a very aggressive campaign?
Oh, I think so. I think we're going to see a very aggressive
Very
campaign.
negative campaign.
You don't know. It depends on how some people view negative. I expect the candidates to probably, right early on, try to define themselves on who they are and what they stand for.
Right.
Then as it gets closer, depending on what position you are in the campaign, you may try to do some attacks on your opponent, talk to them about certain things, and But again, that's always to be seen. But I always expect some negative campaigning in there. No question.
Oh, you're
about
going to
that.
get that anyway, of course.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, people always say, I don't like negative campaigning. And a lot of people don't. But the one thing it does move voters.
Exactly.
If it doesn't move voters, why would you do it?
Right.
So they know it does move voters. It may not move voters towards you right away,
right,
but it may move voters away from your opponent.
Yeah.
The problem is when you have 4 or 5 candidates running,
Right.
you're not sure who they're going to go to.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You may push somebody to someone else.
Right, instead of yourself. So
Take them off one person and push them to
right.
somebody else.
You'll see some candidates that come on very strong at the end. If you think back when it was John Robitaille was running for governor,
Right.
Frank Caprio and who was the Republican? Robitaille's a Republican, and Lincoln Chafee.
Right.
And Caprio was in the middle all the time. At the very end, Robitaille moved up and Caprio went down.
Right.
So you can see movements like that towards the end, depending on what happens.
And that was a shock. That was a shock that happened.
The movement came right up, and the thing was Lincoln Chafee just kept holding on to his 37% of the vote.
Right.
In a 3-way race, as long as those two kept switching votes, he was fine.
Have we? When's the last time we had a governor win 50% of the vote?
4 years ago.
It was 4 years ago?
Absolutely. Gina got over 50% of the vote.
Did she?
The first time she ran, she did not.
No, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. In a primary, when is the last time we've seen a candidate get 50% of the vote in a primary?
Gina, 4 years ago.
Again?
Yeah.
In the primary?
Matt Brown against Matt Brown.
No, I don't know why I thought not.
She got 50% of the vote in the primary. When she ran the first time, it was less because you had
Yeah.
three or four strong candidates running for
Right.
governor at that time,
Right.
and that divided the vote up. That's why you were saying.
In the general election too that year,
Right.
the first time she ran.
Yeah, she got less than 50% because Bob Healy.
And Bob Healy
got like
and
21
Fung and
right.
Alan Fung.
Right, and Healy got like 21% of the vote.
Right.
What happened there, I think, was there was a lot of people, especially Democrats, who said, I don't want to vote for Gina Raimondo because of the pensions that she just changed on
Right.
us, but I can't vote for a Republican. So Bob Healy was a benefactor of that and picked up their votes.
Oh, and plus there was Republicans that didn't want Fung
Right.
or wanted somebody
Right.
other than Fung.
Yep.
And
Bob
they
Healy
picked
got 21% of the vote.
Right, right.
Worked out well for him.
That was a strange election that
Oh
year.
yeah, definitely. But it could be interesting this year. Again, it's still early. You know, we haven't really seen the candidates get out there too strong yet. They're doing appearances and stuff, but not large-scale voter contact.
Right.
That's
right.
what I look for down the road. And again, a lot of it, they're still raising money. You know, it's going to be an expensive campaign. So if you're a TV station, you're happy at this point because you're going to get a lot of
Exactly.
TV ads and a
Gonna
lot
get
of
a lot of
revenue
ads.
coming in with political ads. And
Right.
probably by early September, the voters in Rhode Island are going to be tired of seeing a lot of political ads. But that's the nature of the game. Candidates have to define themselves. And again, politics is very expensive.
Right.
You know, you can be the greatest person in the world, but if you have no money to get your message out, it's very tough to do.
And money begets money. If they notice you're
Exactly.
getting money from, even if it's from out of state,
Right.
all of a sudden you got $500,000,
Right.
and then you have a fundraiser within Rhode Island. You got to
Right.
get a
You're
bigger
going to raise
turnout.
more money, and also, you know, the candidates also will get money from like PACs, political action committees.
Right.
They may come in and put ads on the TV.
Right.
They can't talk with the campaigns, but they run their own ads for or against somebody.
Right.
And you could see a lot of that happening this year.
What
That
do
wouldn't
you
surprise me.
think of those PACs anyway?
Well, again, there are a lot of out-of-state PACs that will come in, interest groups supporting one candidate or the other, trying to get their message across.
But they're supporting really not the candidate. They're supporting their issues. is
Their
what they're
issues a lot of
supporting.
times, and that candidate, you know, they might criticize another candidate who's against their issues.
Right.
Uh,
right.
And they will spend a lot of money, and that's a whole different ballgame and a whole different animal. You know, but there are PACs that are out there.
Sure.
And I would not be surprised seeing PACs come in, especially for Congress this year.
Yep.
Republicans feel they have a chance to take back the House.
Right, right.
Jim Langevin seats a seat they never thought they would have a chance in. I think now
He used to always be the top vote getter.
he would do very well, Jim, and now that he's not running, it changed the whole picture.
Yep.
And you've got Alan Fung, who's a well-known candidate, so I think they believe they have a chance in this district. It's a district that still leans Democrat, but not as much as the first congressional district.
Right.
So I think they believe they may have a chance there, and I think they're going to wait and see what happens as the campaign develops.
But Alan Fung, by the way, is not the only Republican.
No,
right?
Bob Lancey is also running in that
Lancey is
race.
in that
So
race.
he has a primary he has to win. Bob Lancey is a former state representative, also from the city of Cranston.
Right.
But the difference is Alan Fung has raised already over $500,000 and he's still raising money.
Plus,
Bob
he's got
Lancey-
that strong base. He's
has
got
a strong
the
base in
stronghold.
Cranston. Right.
You need a stronghold when
Right.
you're running a big race
Exactly.
like that.
And again, as I said, he's run statewide twice. You know, that's the advantage over Bob Lancey. Bob did run for Congress last time against Jim Langevin. I think he got about 41, 42% of the
Right.
vote.
Which was a shock
Right, it's
to a
good
lot
amount
of
vote.
people. Yeah.
But again, we'll have to see what happens in that race. So if Alan Fung wins that race, I think Republicans believe they have a better chance to.
A lot of
go
money will
forward.
be going towards a lot of national money.
I would assume there will be some money. Again, depends on what the races are shaping up nationally. If they find other races, they have a better chance to win, and the money will go there. They're going to look where they get the biggest bang for the dollar.
Right. And I think if he wins the primary, that I think they're going to spend money in Rhode Island for him.
Again, they're going to look at polling data and see how it looks. If they find that he's too far behind, no. If they find he's up close, probably yes. No question about that. But on the same thing, the Democrats are going to do the same thing, whoever their nominee is on the Democratic side.
Well, a lot of play is going to be because of this abortion issue. I think there's going to be a lot of play with the congressional elections.
Well, yes, probably.
A lot of money is going to be.
It could be, but again, Rhode Island, the abortion law is already in the books.
Right.
That's not going to change. They will use the abortion issue. I'm sure about that. They're running the Congress race. I would think the Democratic candidate is going to make an issue out of that. Whoever the Republican nominee is for Congress, their first vote's going to be for Kevin McCarthy, and that's going to hurt your pocketbook. It's going to hurt you in the state of Rhode Island, that the Republicans are going to take things away from you. At the other side,
That's what they're going to say.
That's what the Democrats are going to say. On the other hand, the Republicans are going to say, do you want Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
But if you remember back when Sheldon Whitehouse was running against Lincoln Chafee, and Chafee was incumbent senator,
Right.
a big part of Sheldon Whitehouse's campaign was simply, don't let Lincoln Chafee be the deciding vote in Congress and in the Senate and keep the Republicans in charge. Put a Democrat in there so the Democrats can control the Senate.
Right.
And
that worked.
That
That paid off for him.
Exactly. It played off well for him. So I think you're going to see some of that this year with the Democrats also.
All right. Now, how do you see nationally? How do you think that people are saying that it's going to be a big swing this year?
Normally, the party who's in power with the presidency loses seats in the midterm election.
Right.
That's the normal thing.
But add to that the economy.
It's the inflation, it's the cost of living.
Right.
And
when it hits you in the pocketbook.
Bob, you're right. People vote their pocketbooks. I'm sure that if we polled right now, that would probably be the number one issue. You see gas going up every day, a new high. That hits people right in their pocketbooks, and people will vote their pocketbooks a lot of times.
Right.
The question is, in the congressional districts, David Cicilline right now looks like he's in pretty good shape. Again, District 2, how well will the Republicans use that issue on the Democrats,
Right.
the pocketbook issue? And again, we'll have to see. It's still early, but I would assume it's an issue they're going to use. Inflation seemed to have leveled out this month when they released the numbers this morning, but we'll have to see if the numbers keep going down. But the thing is, the gas, the food prices, it's people.
And it's all related too.
Right. People vote their pocketbooks, and again, do they want the Democrats controlling it, or do they want the Republicans? That's how I think people are going to vote come this year in CD2.
It makes. Does David Cicilline have an opponent?
I think there's somebody out there. I thought, did Alan Walters say he was going to run again? I'm not really sure. As I said, it's been a very quiet year, Bob. There has not, there's other Republicans running. Most of them have been very quiet so far. Most of them have raised very little money so far.
Right.
And again, you need to raise that money to get yourself better known.
Exactly.
And that's what they have to do.
Well, in this state, the Republicans don't have much of a presence.
Well, right now they got presence in CD2. They have a candidate for governor who's already spent a couple $100,000 on TV ads.
That's amazing to me.
Well, keep in mind, you got a candidate for governor who's not known by any of the voters in the state of Rhode Island.
Correct.
You have to get known. What's the easiest
But
way to
isn't
know?
it early? Isn't it a little early?
Yes and no. It's early, but she's not known. She has to get some name recognition to show viability in the polls. Secondly, once the Democrats start putting their ads on, she's going to get lost in the shuffle.
True.
So she wants to get out there early and define herself on what she wants to do as the governor and get people to know her and what she stands for. If she waits till towards September, you're only down to like 7 weeks to the general election. You're not going to get known in those 7 weeks.
Plus, you might not get spots on TV, right?
Right, so you're buying the time right now.
Right.
You're getting out there with pretty good sized ad buys. And in turn, she's trying to get herself known with the voters and trying to get her positions out there with the voters and what she stands for. But again, it remains to be seen. People say, well, it's a very Democratic state. It is. But Don Kucheri was a governor. Lincoln Almond was a governor.
Right.
We've had Republican governors
Lincoln
in the
Chafee
state.
was a governor.
He was an independent, though.
But yeah.
But we've had Republican governors in the last 20 years or so. So, it's a possibility that we could get one again. But again, she has to get known. She's new to the state. She has the money, obviously, and she's raising money. So we'll have to see what happens over the next quarter or so on how much she spends and how much better known she gets.
Now, she's from where? Newport?
I'm not sure if she lived in Newport or Narragansett.
Oh, down that.
Down in
South
southern,
County.
yeah, South County, Rhode Island.
Right, right.
So we'll have to see what type of campaign she ends up running. Right now, she's been very aggressive, and she's basically trying to get her name out there and people to talk about her, so she can build up name recognition. Then people start saying, "Well, what is this about here? What do I want to find out about it? Maybe she's someone I'm interested in."
Right.
And again, depending how nasty the Democratic primary is, if it's really nasty, that could benefit.
They could
her.
they could kill each other off.
Yep. I think back years ago when Murph York ran against Sheldon Whitehouse in the Democratic primary, it got pretty nasty. They ended up going with Murph York, who was fairly liberal, and Don Kucheri came across more of a moderate Republican,
right.
and a number of Democrats went over and voted for him
Right.
because they thought Murph York was too liberal. So, I mean, you never know what's going to happen as a result of these primaries and how it's going to change the picture. And it looks like she has the resources to get herself known and to build up the campaign. We'll see. It's still very early.
Wow. Well, in this state, I think more people are trying to say they're independent than they are.
It's right
Democrats.
now, Rhode Island's about 41% Democrat, about 14% Republican, and about 45% independent.
There you go.
So basically, Democrat and independent are fairly close to each other. Some
Right.
years they're closer than others. But the Democrats still have almost a 3-to-1 advantage over the Republicans in voter registration.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And again, depends where you look. I mean, take the city of Providence. In the 2020 election, Joe Biden got 80% of the vote in Providence. He won Providence by like 35,000 votes.
Right, yep.
So it's a very heavily Democratic area. But you have other areas of the state that are also heavily Republican, but a lot of them are very small.
Right.
So there's not a ton of votes there.
Right. Very small communities.
Exactly.
Now, Warwick is more split than.
Warwick's more split. Cranston's more split a lot of times. They can go both ways. Those are battleground areas and which way they're going to go. You don't know all the time, but there are a lot of voters in those communities. And the candidates put a lot of work in those two communities, trying to grab the votes. But most of the time they come out within a couple thousand votes of each other. If you win Cranston by 1,500 votes, you could offset that in another small community.
Right.
But you need to hold your own in those communities. And again, the Democrats do big in Providence, Central Falls, Pawtucket,
Right.
Woonsocket, traditional Democratic areas, North Providence, East Providence.
But the Democrats, what's going to be interesting, if it stays as it is right now, the candidates for governor
Right.
in the primary, I think a guy like Matt Brown will take the east side of Providence with the progressive agenda.
Yeah.
The governor will take a good portion of certainly the endorsed Democratic people are going to, for the most part, will sway
Right.
his way, or a good portion of them will anyway. And then the rest will be fought for by the other candidates.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Providence comes out this year. You got 5 candidates running. They're all, I'm sure, going to work Providence. Providence contributes about 20% of the vote in the Democratic primary. So they're a
Right.
big turnout. So the candidate's going to work that. I don't think there's any area you could sort of write off of one person or the other at this point.
Right.
You don't know how Helena
Oh, no,
Folks-
I'm not saying that for
Right.
sure, but I know that
You don't know how
historically.
Helena Folks is going to do on the east side. You
Right,
know?
right.
She has
Oh,
a lot of
that's true.
contacts,
I'm sorry, I
you
didn't
know?
even think of her. Yeah.
Matt Brown, again, with all the progressives throughout the state, if he can get those in there. He also has a lot of candidates. He's running for state house. And if he gets those people out there working and supporting him and talking him up, that could also help him out in the community.
Right, right.
So, I mean, at this point, I think it's wide open on what's going on. Again, we haven't seen any polling data, so, and again, I'm sure if we do see polling data, the undecided is going to be so big.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It tells you that things are going to change a lot between now and the end.
Well, people will change their mind
Exactly.
2 or 3 times, maybe.
That's possibly, I think voters right now have not focused on the election. They're concerned about, like you said, Bob, the price of food,
Gas,
the price
food.
of gas. They're still concerned with COVID. They're thinking about the war in Ukraine. They haven't thought about the governors.
Yeah.
They're also thinking, we're going to get nice weather pretty soon. We can go outside and
That's
do
right,
things.
yeah.
So they're thinking about these things. They're not thinking about who am I voting for governor. So that's why I think it's going to be a big undecided. And also, primary turnout small. You're talking on the Democratic side, statewide, maybe 120, 130,000.
Right.
Out of 700,000 registered voters in the whole state. On the Republican side in CD2, that primary is going to have maybe 20,000 people. That's all.
The whole primary,
And
yeah.
On the Republican side. On the Democratic
Oh, on
side.
the Republican
On
side.
the Democratic side, could be 60,000.
60, I was gonna
Again,
say that.
some years we've seen higher than this.
Yep.
In 18, I think it was One year was 128,000, one year was 117,000 in 2014 and 2018. I don't remember which is which. But the turnout does fluctuate depending on the type of campaign the candidates run and how strong they are and how much of a get out the vote operation they make.
Yep. I remember when I ran I threw my name in because of that's a long story, but somebody talked me into not run for state senator because he wanted to run one more time, and he ended up stiffing me. And he ended up not running one more time.
Yep.
The other candidate got in without any opposition.
Right.
And he talked me into running. He said, throw your name in for lieutenant governor. So like a fool, I did. But I got 22,000 votes in an election I didn't spend any money at.
Yeah. Yeah, candidates will get out there, you know, as I said, if you spend the money,
Yeah.
that's when you start to get the votes. I mean, as I say, you can be the greatest person in the world, but if nobody knows you,
Exactly.
and everybody thinks, oh, everybody knows me, they don't.
No, that's a fact.
Yeah,
That is absolutely
they
a fact.
don't. You think they do, but they don't when you get out there and start talking to voters.
Yep. And in fact, I ran into the Republican candidate. I didn't talk to her at all, but she was sitting at another table from me
Yep.
at an event last week. And she was sitting at the very next table from me. But I was kind of watching, seeing how many people
Yep.
went close to her or talked to her, whatever. And like you said, a lot of people didn't even know she was there.
Right. But again, she's spending the money right now to get herself known.
Yep.
And 2 months from now, you might see a totally different picture.
Oh, I'm sure.
We
Yeah.
don't know. That's
Yep.
what we're going to find
Yep.
out.
We will. We
And when
will.
the Democrats start spending money in their primaries, the whole landscape's going to change, I believe.
Oh, I see that coming. I see that dwindling down to probably 3 people before it's over.
What, the Democrats
Yeah.
for governor?
Governor, yeah.
Well, right now you got the big 3, maybe big 4. You know, it all depends what happens as time goes on.
Like you say, you know, when they have Joe Fleming and Associates do a poll for them and they find out where they stand.
Well, we don't do polls for any statewide candidates because
you don't?
No, because I work with Channel 12.
Right,
We do
okay.
the polling for Channel 12, and we don't do any statewide races at all. I haven't done that for many, many years because I'm the political analyst with Channel 12, so I stay away from statewide races totally.
Okay.
But again, when you have 5 candidates running for governor, you don't need 50% of the vote to win.
Exactly.
You could win this race in the low 30s.
30s,
you know.
exactly.
So these candidates know that, and they're doing a strategy to get them that percent of the vote they need.
Now, how often you going on Channel 12 now?
It depends when they need me. I was on yesterday morning on the morning news. We taped a section for that the other day on the 2nd Congressional District. When they call me in, I go in and do things for them. I do newsmakers quite often with
Right,
Ted and Tim. But it varies. When be doing a lot more between now and November, I get the feeling.
All right, well, I'm going to have you back.
problem.
Hopefully, I get you back here before
got it.
the primary.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you for stopping by, Joe.
My pleasure. Very good, Bob.
Nice seeing you. Joe
seeing you.
Fleming, Fleming and Associates. We'll be back. Oh, hi, folks. We're back on An Hour with Bob, and I got a friend of mine for, it's got to be 40 years or something like that. A neighborhood guy from the Woodlawn section, Oak Hill section of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. You'll remember him as the Speaker of the House of Rhode Island, John Harwood. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Bob. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad you finally got here. It took me how many years to get you here?
It took you a while.
A while,
A while,
huh?
yeah, but we're here. We're here.
Well, how far do we go back?
Oh God, we go back at least 40 to 50.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm 70, so that goes back 50, brings me to 20. I knew you in my teens.
Yep,
So
yep.
it's probably, 50 years, 55,
What is it with our area of Pawtucket that you've had 2 of the biggest, most powerful men in the state as Speaker of the House, Speaker of the House, over you and Harry Kervin?
I think by luck. Harry, well, first of all, most of the people, as we know, lived in Providence, the Pawtucket area. Cumberland was Cumberland Farms. Lincoln was Lincoln Woods. So you had most of the people that lived in Pawtucket, Providence, who now live down in South Kingston.
Yeah.
Not only live in East Greenwich where there were cows. Now, so that's why I think the population was more condensed.
Right.
So you had someone like Harry. And Pawtucket was a powerhouse city.
Yeah.
Powerhouse.
How about the Secretary of State for years?
Oh, Bob Burns was
Burns and Gus LaFrance before
Gus
him.
LaFrance, and you had guys like Deputy Speaker Dickie Kiley, and And of course, you had
John McBurney?
John
The father.
McBurney, the father. Yeah, and the son. Over 40 years of great public service. And
Right.
you had people like McCoy, the mayor, who before our time.
Yep,
But they say he had a real fastball.
Oh,
yeah.
he sure did.
So,
McCarthy
Pawtucket.
and McCoy, right?
Yeah, right, and those names, right, those are, obviously they predate me, but powerful figures and did a lot of good for Pawtucket.
Yeah, we kept it in Pawtucket.
Yeah, and then I came along and we were able to, I think, bring a lot of good things to the city of Pawtucket and help us in our own little way.
Well, you were of modern times. You had been the speaker, what, 10 years?
Yeah, modern times, I'm the longest. I served 10 years, from 93 to 2003. So it was a good run. We were able to help the city a lot, from McCoy Stadium
Right.
to the city itself, grants for this group, grants for that group, redeveloping a lot of the city buildings along the lines of where the city hall is and the police station to the right near McCoy Stadium. That was all developed by the city. Of course, the registry came, when I was the speaker.
In Pawtucket.
Right, and we redeveloped and we created a museum, if I'm not mistaken, that's pretty much joined to the Tolman High School. So there's been a lot of things that have gone on in Pawtucket that we were able to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of work.
What'd you think when they lost McCoy Stadium, lost the Red Sox?
Very
Being
disappointed.
a sports guy.
Yeah, no, I played baseball there as a
Yeah.
as a high school player, and played there in college against Brown University when I was at UPenn.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was
Now,
a
what
wonderful
position did
place.
you play as a baseball player?
Well, in high school I was a shortstop, but I'm more built like a second baseman. So I played second base
Right.
at University of Pennsylvania for 4 years, and I played hockey there for 4 years too.
I know hockey was more
Yeah.
your sport, right?
Yeah, I don't know. My father seemed to think I was more gifted in baseball.
Really?
Yeah, but they know me as a hockey player.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
What I mean,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah,
With
but I
Mount
did
St.
too.
Charles, right?
Yeah, Mount St. Charles, I played hockey and baseball there, and we had some great teams.
Yeah,
Bobby. Great
yeah.
teams. Yeah, a lot of fun.
I interviewed, what was his name?
Bill Belisle?
Belial, the
Oh,
father. Yeah.
probably one of the top high school coaches the
He
country's
won it
ever
for
seen.
25 years, I think he
At
won.
least 25
Yeah,
years. He
in a
was there.
row. I think he won 25 in a
yeah,
row.
that's right. At 25 years, he won state championship and national championships. On his watch, he had 2 first picks in the first round of the National Hockey League draft.
Wow.
That's the number 1 person
In
pick
the whole country,
world.
in the world.
Russia.
That's right.
The
That's
world.
right.
You're
Yeah.
the number 1 pick
Yep.
in the NBA. You're the number 1 pick in baseball, hockey, world. And you had 2 of them out of that high school, Mount St. Charles, which is a great school academically as well as promoting, I think, a good foundation for young men and women to move forward.
Right, right.
Yeah, good
I'm
place.
trying to remember the names. I should remember the names of the hockey players.
Well, the first pick in the first round was Brian Lawton.
Yes,
Anderson,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Brian was a great player, and then you have Brian Barad, who's my favorite.
Right.
He graduated in the 90s.
Didn't he get hurt? Something happened.
He lost partial eyesight in one of his eyes by accident, and then he retired and then came back with a partial one eye. And I told guys, I said, I think he's so talented. I said, I bet you he could score 20 goals with 1.5 eyes, and he did.
Really?
No, he was just an absolute force, a terrific player. Probably the best I've ever seen out of Rhode Island, and when healthy, probably one of the best I've ever seen.
Period.
6'2", 220, 215, and an absolute force.
Now, was he a forward?
Defense.
Oh, he was a defense.
Yes.
Oh,
and he
I
could
should have known that.
skate, he could pass well, he had an edge. He was unquestionably a thoroughbred National Hockey League product. Period. He was just a terrific player. And a lot of other guys after him too, and before.
Yeah, how did he get hurt anyway?
Well, one of the guys slipped and fell, and his stick, when he was falling back, it clipped his eye. And he didn't have a face mask at the time, which at that time, a lot of people didn't wear face masks.
Oh, I know it. I remember that.
But they've wore them now, like they got the half shield.
Yep.
One thing to lose your teeth, but lose your eyesight, it's a little different. You
Yeah,
know?
no kidding.
Yeah,
No
so they've had some terrific players out of there. And matter of fact, Mount St. Charles, the Speaker of the House now, Joe Shikachi's from Mount St. Charles.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Joe's from Mount St. Charles, and there's been a long history of great athletes. Great athletes.
Yeah.
You've got to have over 20, 25 NHL players out of there, at least.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's loaded.
That's
It's a little
crazy.
school from Rhode Island.
Yeah.
They come from all over, Bob,
All over the country, not only the country,
Yeah,
even Canada, right?
Yeah, well, they used to in my day, and then they sort of cut it out because they were getting a little angry.
Yeah, I guess so.
But what happened is now they have the high school hockey, but now you have the junior, like the USHL,
Right.
which are kids like 17 to 21.
Yep.
And they play a 60-game schedule. They're part of the Mount St. Charles family, but they're not the high school Mount St. Charles team as we used to know it.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, which is good because the young.
Like I said, it's a semi-pro league,
Well,
virtually.
yeah, I mean, you go from there. Most of the kids some kids out of high school hockey can go from there, like the old days, right into
Right to the pros.
to pros or Division I. Could play at BU, Boston
Right.
College. I mean, and they're not far off from the pros either. Depends what you want to do with your life. But this level from 17 to 21, they're really getting you developed. One for a Division I school, like a powerhouse.
Right.
The Ivy League hockey or BU, BC.
Or Minnesota or something.
Minnesota, Duluth, yeah, exactly, or Denver, Colorado, all of those schools. So the world has changed, even in the Mount St. Charles arena, where you have the high school, but you also have this junior hockey, which is really, really quality hockey.
I get it.
No,
I get
it's
it.
changed.
Now, I saw you last week. Where did I see you last week? I ran into you
You
somewhere.
saw me at
Where was
the
it?
Heritage Hall of Fame.
The Heritage
Yeah,
Hall of Fame.
It was quite an honor.
It was, and you were inducted into the
Correct.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no, I was really honored and really humbled. I mean, honored because I was, the people who have been put into that have been
Exactly.
really, really distinguished people throughout the history of Rhode Island.
Right.
I had mentioned, and it was good for my kids who are now adults to see it. It's good for
Yeah.
them that they see their dad doing well, but I was, really humbled. I mean, you got people like Armin LaMontagne in there. I mean,
And I was glad you mentioned them. Right
Oh, no,
off the
his
bat. You
woodwork,
mentioned-
when you walk into Cooperstown, you see woodwork of Babe Ruth and Ted William.
Yep.
And then when you come back and go down the street to the Boston Garden, you see him doing Bobby Orr, and he's
Yes.
done Patton. I mean,
And
he's
Carl Yastrzemski.
Carl Yastrzemski. I mean, he's like world renowned and a wonderful guy from Pawtucket, as you know.
Yep.
And then you had, judges like Judge Weisberger, Judge Bruce Selya. I mean, those two guys, I mean, you could put them right on the U.S. Supreme Court
Right.
and not miss a beat. I mean, they're just exceptional. And then you get people like Bruce Sunland and Jack Reed, and you get Rocky Marciano. You get
Yes.
Willie Green, who just got put in.
That was an interesting story, Willie Green's
Willie
story.
Green's a great guy, and I knew Willie, and he was just a wonderful man that everybody liked, and he was just as tough as he was nice. Wonderful guy.
And he was, what was he? He was an Indian?
He was a Indian Wampanoag background. He was the chief of the Wampanoags, and they're basically Bristol, Warren, Pawtucket, Seacock, part of Massachusetts.
Right.
Yeah, and he was the chief of that. And
Right along the water, right?
Along the water, exactly right, and the Narragansett on the other side.
Right.
And just always promoting, within reason, the Indian rights and the heritage of his people. And there was a guy when they only had one class. He was like number 6 in the world, as
A boxer.
middleweight.
Middleweight boxer.
Yeah, I mean he was for real. Back then they didn't have 4 belts and 4.
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
you had one guy, and,
Yep.
and the next guy you're going to see, hang on. Wasn't like you could dodge somebody back in those days.
Right.
So it was really an honor, and I was glad that my wife was there and children were there, and I'm very, very thankful for their selection of me.
That was nice to see.
Yeah, it was nice to see a lot of people. I saw you there, and
your speech was excellent too, by the way.
Well, I've always said, get in, get out, say what you want, don't stay too long, because it's tough for people sitting there 4 or 5 hours to hear long speeches.
Yeah.
Key is get in, make your point, get out. I think in the end of the day, you'll be better off than trying to speak for 15 minutes. And after a while, I've been through a lot of them, so I sort of move in the direction of a short speech is a better speech.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's always pretty good, Bob,
Well, Jimmy Birchfield didn't think the same way, though.
No, Jimmy, and I like to, no, Jimmy, Jimmy,
It was a little long-winded.
no, yeah,
And
well
deserved.
said, well deserved.
Well
Jimmy,
deserved and well
no,
said.
he's been on the frontier doing a lot of great things with a lot of young men.
Yep,
I
yep.
mean, his family's a great family, and he's worked extremely hard to build Rhode Island up as a little mini boxing capital. in his own
Yes,
way.
yeah,
I mean, he's done a great job, and he's a nice person, too.
Over the years, I've had him on the show when he
Yeah.
had the CES, when he first
Yeah.
started the CES.
Yeah, yeah.
And over the years, I probably had him on, I don't know, six or seven, 8 times.
Yep, I can see why. He's a fascinating guy.
He is.
And he's touched a lot of people's lives.
Yep.
So, so he was that selection on the merits was a real deal. I'm really happy for him and his family, which is good.
There was a hell of a crowd there.
Oof,
That'd be 500 people there.
At least 500 people,
That
yeah.
big tent outside there.
Yeah, no, it was a remarkable
Down in
crowd
Warwick.
with remarkable inductees, with a remarkable past, because you're not just talking about all athletes. It's not like the Baseball
Right,
Hall of Fame
right,
or,
right.
or the Political Hall of Fame. You have everybody.
Captains of industry. You
Captains
have-
of industry.
right.
You have people who's in politics. You have people who are, athletes. You have people who are just public servants, and whether they be teachers or whether or not they be business people, as you said. So it's a real, collage of talent. So, to get there, I was very humbled and
The
honored.
woman that was from the Westerly Armory, Huddle, I think was her name.
Yes, I forget the name, but I remember, yeah,
She gave, I mean, the
Yeah.
statistics she was throwing out
the
there.
first in this and
Yeah,
the first in
Rhode
that.
Island's the first this.
Yeah.
And I've used that over the years. I've said that. I've been
Yep.
a real advocate of the state of Rhode Island.
Oh, Rhode
and
Island.
especially this Patuxent Village there.
Oh, yeah.
The Gaspee.
Yeah, the
burning of
Gaspee.
Gaspee.
Yeah,
I've
that-
always said that. We got the shaft on that. They claim it was the Boston Tea Party.
Boston Tea Party. Now, we were fighting with the
No.
British before that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's going to piss off the
Right.
the King of England more?
Oh.
Throwing tea
Or
off
burn-
a ship or burning one of their ships down?
Burning their ship.
You better believe
If
it.
I'm the king, you're going to get my attention a little quicker,
Exactly. And that was months earlier.
And
That was
I-
almost over a year
And I
before.
think Rhode Island, I could be correct, but I think Rhode Island's the first one to have a constitution before the
Right.
U.S. Constitution. Yeah.
May 4th.
Yep.
It was 2 months to the day before.
Was it? Okay, so I was right on that. Rhode Island's a real unique, wonderful state because what you see is what you get, and it's small. I mean, you can walk down the street and see a governor or see a U.S. senators
Right.
or whatever it may be, and it's really a cool place. I know when I talked to other speakers in the past, they used to say, "Oh no, Johnny, we don't want to go down there. You guys have your own way," and they may be right, but I never looked at it that way. But Rhode Island guys and Rhode Island women, very, very articulate in the sense that they speak their mind, and like I said before, what you see is what you get, and on the way up the ladder,
Yep.
try to be a nice guy, because on the way down, you're
The
going to
way
see
down
the
can
same.
be tough, huh?
You're going to see the same people, Bob, no doubt about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know who your friends are.
Oh, you find they flush them out in a hurry.
Yep.
And they can't hide. It's too small.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so
Exactly. You know who they are.
Eventually, you'll run into them again. Yeah. no, you're
Exactly.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. It's a great state.
Now, how you feeling? I remember back
Yeah,
a while
I
back.
got hurt there bad. It's like anything else. I had an operation for my back, and I exercise, but I just can't do it the way I used to. But then again, I'm much older, so
Yeah.
that's one. But two, there's a residual effect. But you just move on.
So you're a member of my fraternity, the
Yeah.
bad back.
Yeah, the bad backs. And if you get a bad
I've had
back,
5 of them.
oh
operations.
boy, one's enough for me, Bob.
That's bad news.
It's debilitating, and it knocked me out of work for like 9-10 months.
Yes.
And it was a stretch because the bills keep coming, even though you're hurt. And as you well know,
Yep. Yep.
it's a tough stretch when you're going through that pain because you.
People don't know when
No.
they say, "Oh, my back hurts." My back, They have no idea.
This
what
was a bad one. You got a bad one. I remember
Yep.
you walking around like, bent over and really debilitated and stuff. So it's good and stuff. But
Well, remember when I had the
I
neck,
remember-
when I got the titanium plate
I,
in my
I
neck?
remember vividly.
You do. And John was my attorney, by the way.
Yeah, we were
In that
fortunate.
case.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in that stuff, and so on and so forth. You and I go back to the political days. I know you had Joe Fleming on earlier, and there's a man with great knowledge of the
Yeah.
politics in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island's an interesting scenario today on the races that are coming up and the changes that have taken place over the years.
Right, right.
It's interesting. I'm curious to see how the gubernatorial race.
Me too.
Yeah, and as
Me
well
too.
as the General Assembly, because I think, the world has changed, people's thoughts have changed, and probably, to some degree, the better.
Right.
Some degree, I don't think
Not
the
so
better.
good.
No, I don't think so, but that's what democracy is, and let the people vote for who they want and try it out, and hopefully it goes in the right direction.
Yeah, they may have tried it out the wrong way.
Well, there's certainly an argument for that. There's certainly an argument, at least from the way I look at it, but
Yeah.
who says I'm right?
Me
you know?
too, me
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
the way I say it, you know?
Yeah.
Things have changed.
They sure have, Bob. They got some interesting races coming up, though. It's going to be interesting in the gubernatorial.
Yeah, yeah.
And even the congressional races are rather fascinating.
I think that's going to be going to be the most fascinating.
Yeah,
race.
no, that'll be a real Donnybrook. You got
Yep.
talented people there, and they both work hard. They both come across well, and they're both issue-oriented, and
Yep.
and they're both proven.
And they're both well known.
Yeah, they're well known, and
And they got money. Both
yeah,
of them.
they got money, and money helps, but you got to get well known, and got to make sure you're meeting the people, because money won't do it alone.
Nope.
Never has, never will.
No, you got to hand that face to face.
Need a ground game. You don't have a ground game, just all that money.
Well, we're old school politicians.
Well, that's right.
And that's the way I always.
Well,
thought.
even Tip O'Neill said, people like to be asked, people like to be thanked, and that's really the basis of politics. You don't ask them, you didn't ask me.
If you're invisible.
That's
if
exactly
they're-
right.
If they're invisible to
Yeah.
you.
You got a
you
problem.
ain't got no shot.
Yeah, and sometimes they give you a pass if they see you being productive for them.
Right.
They know that you've done this, you've done that, and you can't be at 9 places at once. On the other hand, if you're just cruising through and not doing much where they can see or read,
Right.
you've got a headache coming.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you're going to get, libeled or slandered or whatever. So you got to make sure, at least if you're producing,
Right.
they'll say, hey, he's my guy. We'll figure out the rest later, which works out pretty good.
You're a very knowledgeable man, and also, how would you say it? Very meat and potatoes.
I grew up with meat and potatoes.
We did,
On
right?
that third floor tenement out in Pawtucket. I think I lived on baked potatoes and
Where was it,
steak.
Lafayette?
I lived on Glenwood Avenue.
Glenwood Avenue.
Glenwood, next to the old Woodlawn Laundry.
Right.
There was one on West Avenue, Main Street, where you
Yeah,
lived,
yeah.
and then there's one on Glenwood Avenue. I lived across the street from Glenwood
So
Avenue.
you live near the bakery.
Yeah, exactly.
Bread.
Harvest
With the
Bakery, right
doors
around the
open,
corner. Yeah,
huh?
yeah. The guy used to throw his bread and
Yeah,
rolls.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Hey,
Oh,
kid,
we grab a couple of loaves
Yeah.
off the rack there.
I deny that. But I know we were pretty good benefactors of the good-naturedness of some of those truck drivers. Let me put it to that
Yes,
way, Bob. Yeah.
exactly.
It was a great neighborhood back then.
Harvest bread.
Harvest Better, exactly
Yep,
right.
yep.
No, exactly right.
And right around the corner, you had they got Vincent's Market there now.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it.
You remember what was in
Yeah.
that plaza?
Yeah,
I
remember-
worked there when I was a kid, in the plaza.
In the plaza.
There was a supermarket in that
Yeah,
plaza. You
I remember it. I don't remember it well because I was.
First National.
Yes, yeah, I remember it. I was going a lot. I was probably in school and I was
Right.
traveling and stuff. But it was a great neighborhood. You knew people. You knew them from church.
Right.
You knew them from probably playing Little League baseball
Yep.
or Pee Wee hockey or Bantam or Babe Ruth. You just knew
We
them.
all played baseball. back
Everybody
then.
played
When do you
baseball.
see nowadays? When do you see a kid walking
don't.
with a bat and a glove on
Never.
the bat?
No, I never see that. And I think I can remember Hope Street from my neighborhood. Yours may have been a little different, but I used to go down to Hope Street every day and play. My mother would say, all right, John, go out, come back for lunch. And I'd go out and play for 5-6 hours a
Right,
day.
right.
And then we'd go up to Summit Avenue where Miriam Hospital is.
Yes.
And Summit Avenue School used to have a brick facade in the back.
And
you
throw
used
the
to-
ball against it?
tennis ball, and
Yep.
they'd get your bat, and you learned.
Yep.
The guy was about 20 feet away from you. He was probably coming in at 100 miles an hour. But, whether it be a wiffle
But you have to-
ball.
yeah, exactly.
So you learn to get a quick bat, and you
Yep.
learn to duck.
Yep. And
so-
a quick glove.
Oh, you're real quick. It's just a different world back then. But you could let your children out without worrying about people harming them back then.
Right,
The
right.
world, as we said.
But I'm not really sure it's any different today. I just think they make it out to be that.
I don't have any evidence to the contrary, but I have my feelings tell me that people are more vigilant today because it gets reported more today.
right.
Yeah, whether or not it was any worse back then, Bob, I don't
What
know.
I'm saying is, I don't think there's any more crazy people
Oh, no.
today than there were then.
No, there's a lot of people who have some issues, no doubt
Right,
about it.
yeah.
And there's more people around. I think the population
Yes.
in the country, not
Right.
maybe Rhode Island. Rhode Island's always been about 1 million people.
Right.
So it's
But
different
like you
for
say,
us.
other parts of the country have
Yeah,
more
oh,
people
no, they,
involved.
yeah, and they, there's other issues with the border, there's other issues with crime, there's other issues, and it perpetuates itself into problems sometimes,
If you had to do it over again, would you go back in again? Would you become a politician?
Yes and no. When I went to University of Pennsylvania, I got out of the Wharton School, and I had chances to go to Wall Street, but I didn't understand the concept of Wall Street because
Right.
no one was telling
Wish
me.
the hell you did, huh?
Well, yes and no, because I came back and had a good run, met a lot of wonderful people, married my wife
Patty.
Patty, who's the best. I've had
By the
fun-
way, she looks a lot younger than you now.
she is, and
no,
yeah.
but she looks a lot younger.
Yeah,
than
well,
you.
I'm not totally dumb. Patty is a great mother and a great wife and
a nice
great
person.
and a great person, my best friend. And the 4 kids grew up here in Rhode Island, which is a wonderful place to grow up.
Right.
I mean, you got good schools, you got the beaches, the food's good, the people basically, their moral fiber is pretty good overall. I mean,
Right.
life is life and human nature is human nature, but I don't know if I would have enjoyed maybe taking a swipe going to New York City versus doing what I did would have been better for me.
Right.
So I'm sort of happy I did what I did because I was able to accomplish a lot of things and have a good life.
But I mean, if you had to do it over again in politics.
Oh, in politics, I don't think I would say no. I'm not going to run at that time or even now because my goal was always trying to get in and to help the state because you knew everybody in the state. I mean, it's amazing when you know people, you don't mind helping. And I think we did help. We helped big business, but we helped a lot of little people. And when you can do that, it makes you feel good because people want to be helped. They want to be, in some way, the chance to get ahead. I mean, big business, if you help with Fidelity, they're going to maybe help your child and
Right.
hire them out of Bryan College or Providence College or URI or Brown. So that in and of itself is one way to make a big difference. On the other hand, there may be some children with handicaps that you can fund a program that gets them from point A to point B
Right.
where he's a productive citizen.
Where he normally wouldn't get that
That's
shot.
exactly right. And that's just as rewarding as helping a Fidelity or helping an Amazon or whoever it may be. So as I look back, coming from where I came from, which was a 3rd floor house, my father,
Glenwood Avenue.
my dad was a construction worker, tough guy. You learned what was important and the basis of, what you should be paying attention to. So looking back, I'm sort of glad I did what I did because my intention was always try to help.
Right.
And we did. We did a lot of good for Pawtucket with the McCoy Stadium. We reshaped that place and
right.
modernized it. We brought in Fidelity. We brought in, I think, the airport. We did a lot. We did the redevelopment of the city of Providence. Amgen. We brought in. We brought in a lot of things that the human services could use, like the Autistic Society, getting children housing after they turn 18 or after they turn 21.
Right, which was important
Well, it's
because they
very
didn't have
important.
that.
No, where do you have a child that has some issues where they need some help?
Right.
You just don't cut it off at 18.
Right,
You don't cut it off.
exactly.
And I think as time is going on, I think young women have had a chance to grow and become absolutely productive and absolutely stars in our system, whether it be of medicine and law and politics. I think it's wonderful that women have had a chance to get into those areas because I have 3 bright daughters, clearly brighter than me. And you want to see everybody get a shot on an equal basis. And I think the attitude that we had, for the most part, pushed everybody in the right direction. There's going to be naysayers, but you can't keep everybody happy.
It ain't happening.
Nope,
Nope.
that's exactly right, Bob.
There's always got to be somebody.
Always going to be somebody.
Yep.
So you do the best
Even
you can.
if it's their fault. It's gotta be
Yeah, oh
somebody.
no, they don't want to take fault. No, they don't want to take blame.
they're gonna put it on
They're gonna
you or
blame
me.
you. They blame you or I, and then and away you go. But no, you always do the best you can, and as you look back, you say to yourself, hey, let someone else pass the torch. Let them go run with it, and I hope and pray they do as good a job, if not better, because
Right.
you want the state to do well. You're just passing through.
Now, do they ever come back, some of these politicians, and call John Howard and say, hey, John, Can you help me out? Can you, how should I handle this? Or how should I do that?
Yes, quite often.
Yeah?
Yeah, they say, John, how'd you do it? I said, well, the times may be different, but, go see this person. This person's got a lot of knowledge in that area. And he can tell you, you may want to go talk to this person before you do anything so you don't offend anybody. And here's how we did it. Here's how we, projected it. It would work. It did work. And here's why. So I've had a lot of people ask me, really, how did you guys do it? Because I had a very talented team when I was there.
And you always use the term, I noticed about you, you always use the term we.
Well, it is we. Quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. Teams win Super Bowls.
Right.
Speakers don't make the place a better place. The team with the speaker makes a better place.
Right.
And the minute you think that, you have all the answers, that's when you really know you're a dope. And teams really, and we had a lot of talented people on my watch up there. You had Tony Pyrus, you had George Carullo, Bobby Flaherty, Jerry Martineau, Eddie Inman, Randy Menard, and I can go on and on and on. Charlie Notes, and people are coming to my, Eddie Inman, and people are coming to my
You're still as
line
sharp
right
as
now.
ever, though.
Well, no, I don't know about that, but there's names I'm missing right now, so I apologize. And on the Republican side, you had Wayne Salisbury, you had Joan Quick, and numerous people who made so many great contributions. Paul Sotell served with us, Gillen Degley in the Supreme Court. Wonderful people. A lot of judges came out of the Senate and the General Assembly who did remarkable jobs. Paul Kelly did a great job in the Senate side. Joe Montalbano from Pawtucket.
Right.
Billy Irons did a terrific job. So you've had a lot of people whose heart were really in the right place, and just nice people to work with.
It goes back in time, my God,
Yeah.
what a history lesson.
It's unbelievable, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah, you're still good. Hey,
Yeah.
are you still with your law partner?
No, Danny McKinnon, who's another great guy, retired in June of 2022. So when Dan retired, I moved from Pawtucket up to the Smithfield, Lincoln area, which is 5 minutes from my house. So I practice right near my house. I'm able to get on, it's Route 7 on the road to Bryan College. I'm able to get on 295 and go to court. I can go home 5 minutes from my law office. So when Danny retired, and Danny and I were together for 40 years, had a terrific run, a lot of fun, a great friendship, and he's my cousin. So we accomplished a lot, and we worked hard. And when he left, there was a big void. But we moved on, and just trying to do the best we can and have some fun and help as many people as we can.
You had a good run, kid.
Oh yeah, not bad, Bobby. Not bad.
Well, I'm glad I finally got you to.
Yeah, well, for you, I
Hang
come.
around.
I usually lay low. It's other people's time. They're in the game, and I don't want to, step on anyone's toes. But for you, I'll always find time. You and I go back too far. Plus, I know you'll torture me if I don't. So I got to come back. But it's always good to come back.
Oh, thanks for stopping by.
Bobby, real pleasure. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for spending an hour with Bob and John Howard, former Speaker of the Rhode Island House for 10 years, 10 long years.
It was longer than you thought. I can tell you. It was a long
It
time.
felt longer. Look at this.
Great time.
Look at
though.
this.
Oh yeah, great time. Oh yes.
Huh?
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Until next time. See you.
Been a real pleasure.